Hi, friends. I'm Swapna Gajala, and I heartily welcome you all to PSSM Global Show Soul Connect. PSSM Global is an initiative to strengthen the roots of Pyramid Spiritual Society's movement worldwide. PSSM Soul Mission is to spread Anapanasati meditation, plant based food, spiritual science, and beneficial uses of pyramid energy to one and all. One of the 18 guiding principles of PSSM emphasizes on listening and sharing meditation experiences to enhance one's spiritual progress. Through this show, we want to connect you all to various spiritual masters across the globe who will share their words of wisdom, their journeys, and experiences. I'm very happy and excited to welcome our guest, Ayyappa Pindi from India. Ayyappa is a successful entrepreneur, pyramids research scientist, transformational meditation coach, and an enlightened master. He is founder and CEO of Pure Minds Technologies, Bits Bytes Technologies, Pyramid Earth, and 51 Pyramids. He's got over 15 years of IT experience with many companies. He's a spiritual master and a spiritual corporate meditation trainer who has extensively given over 1,000 plus sessions on meditation in major IT companies and other sectors. He has been practicing meditation over 15 years now, teaches regularly to business entrepreneurs, students, and everyone he comes across. He started 51 Pyramids, an e commerce solution company, in 2019 to serve humanity on a large scale by sending right spiritual products for the upliftment of their consciousness. These tools will help everyone to get the right balance on body, mind, and soul. Hearty welcome to Soul Connect Ayapagaru.
Namaste, Swapna ji. I'm very happy I'm here. Thank you for the good introduction.
Thank you so much. Can you share with us why and how you came into this path and when you connected to your soul?
When I was in the age of 12, I was vexed with the life. I tried to suicide twice, thrice, because I saw everywhere there is a routine in the life. And I want something, I was searching for something, I couldn't find what it is. And my entire family was only focused on business and simple living way back in must be 1990s. But even that was a failure. So I was searching for why I am so restless. By the age of 14, there was a death in the house. One of my uncles, he told me that he saw the soul of my aunt. That those words shook me, and somehow I felt this is what I'm searching for. So I asked him exactly, I want to see the soul, like how you see. What should I do? He said, you need to meditate. So that was the first turning point in my life because I heard the two terms, soul and also meditation. So that gave me the hope to live. So that moment I decided I want to see the souls. I want to communicate as how he is communicating. And I want to see something beyond what the physical eyes can see. But he couldn't teach me the meditation because they were Guru Shishya bounded society of Kundalini meditation. So he asked me to wait until the age of 18. So this is how my whole journey of spirituality started with spirits.
So, any significant experiences you've had in meditation?
Yes, like uh, before entering Pyramid Society, I was practicing Bahula Siddhi meditation for some time. I left it. I did Kalki meditation for some time. I left it. I did Kundalini meditation for 9 months, but there was no experience at all. But I know everything in theory. There's no practical. Only once in the dream I had some experience, but there's no practical. The first day when I came into Pyramid Society, I always thank Mrs. Girija Rajanji because she was the one who initiated me into meditation. The very first day, my whole third eye opened in a pitch dark room and I started seeing everything. That is my first and most important experience I got. So I was confused how I kept my fingers on my eyes to check whether am I really seeing, but how could I even see in the dark room? Later, I next day I asked her. She clapped, and everybody clapped and said, "Your third eye is open." That's when I understood my third eye fully open. So that is my entry into the the new era, I can say, of my whole life. So that was my first significant experience in meditation.
So they call you the third eye master. So what does like how does one become a third eye master, and how does it help in our spiritual life and day-to-day life?
See, we all have five senses. We all know that for the physical body. But when it comes to the spirit, that is astral body, the third eye is the sense. You can touch, you can smell, you can feel everything with this body. Otherwise, you will not be able to get any experience. We all come into the human form for these experiences. Similarly, for the soul, third eye is the senses. There is a misconception that third eye is not only eye, not only for looking. You get some fragrances in meditation, that is because of third eye. You get telepathy, that is because of third eye. You get intuition, that is because of third eye. You see visions, that is because of third eye. So third eye is all put together the senses of the soul. If that is not there, there is no spirituality. You cannot feel, listen, hear. You cannot even get messages, channeling. Everything happens through third eye. So third eye is the very, very essential tool. But people misunderstand, thinking only visions are third eye. So people who meditate, they all are third eye masters. This is my experience on third eye. And it is a must tool for your spiritual journey.
So why is meditation important, and what is the ultimate goal that we are trying to achieve through meditation?
Why is a very interesting question. We all think we are bodies. Life becomes mundane and bored. Meditation is important because, first of all, it will reveal who you are, what you are. When I meditated, my third eye opened. I started seeing many things which these physical eyes fail to see. And once I saw all my seven bodies, then I got a question. If I can see all my seven bodies, who is that I who is seeing that? Then I understood it was my consciousness. Then and I understood the full picture, and life is more interesting. People must meditate because they must know who they are really first. Otherwise, you are in a dream world. The moment you wake up in the morning, okay, you think, okay, oh, all these things were dream. Okay, now I'm out. That is the same thing is going to happen when you die. Osho says you must die before you really die. So that is awakening. There's a lot of books on near to death experiences. People are awakened only when they see death because they will start preparing for life after death. So when I saw my seven bodies, then I understood I am not that. Then I came out of the drama. Then when I saw all my past life, then I understood why I am born again. Why we need to know, why we need to meditate is to know the reality. There's something called spiritual reality. That in real, who am I? When people go to Ramana Maharshi, he always says, Chumair means keep quiet. Not the words, the mind. He says, keep quiet here. And the second thing he says is, know who you are. When you become silent, you will really know who you are. Otherwise, you think you know who you are, but that is not the reality. So people must meditate to know first who they are, then why they are here. Then life becomes not interesting, meaningful, purposeful. After you vacate, you go to the higher worlds. Anyway, you're going to analyze why I am born. Did I do what I was intended to do? So you die. That's a short death. Meditation is a short death before your final death. The death will reveal the truth. So that is why we must meditate.
Beautifully explained. Thank you so much. So, meditation is all about getting into that thoughtless state, but many a times we are just clouded with too many thoughts. And even though we are meditating regularly, some days we have more thoughts and some days we have less. So, how do we reduce thoughts in meditation?
See, basically, we must understand what are thoughts, what is mind, where is the mind. You ask a doctor, Where is the mind? They won't be able to give you any proper explanation because they had done the autopsy and they did not find the mind anywhere. So, exactly where is the mind? This is the question every meditator has to put on himself. Where is the mind? The mind is in the astral body. Mano, Chitta, Buddhi, Ahankara. All these four are part of the mind which is in the astral body. That's why even when we die, when the astral body comes, the astral body can still think. It thinks it is still alive because the mind exists there, not in the physical body. First thing. Our thoughts are very powerful. How? Because our mind sits in the astral body and every thought gets energy from the astral body. So our mind sits in the astral form. Okay, mind is such a beautiful mechanism because it manifests. The physical body is nothing but it's just a doll connected with the wires from the astral body. When the astral cord is cut, this body just falls like you drop a cloth. Similarly, the body falls down. And very interestingly, importantly, thoughts are nothing but waves, like the sound waves recording. You see the audio of any music or any vocal as waves. Thoughts are nothing but waves, pre recorded, currently running, the futuristic thoughts. Most importantly, one need to understand that 99 percentage of your thoughts are not yours. When you go to, I'll tell you one example what that happened in my life, very interesting. Maybe way back in 2010, maybe. I went to a shopping mall for the first time to buy something. Maybe a wallet, I think. I came out after 1 hour buying a lot of stuff, but I forgot buying wallet. I stood there and I observed what exactly happened. The moment I entered, the waves took over me. I want to buy that. I want to buy this. I want to grab this. This may be useful. Finally, I got a tray. I was very happy collecting things. I was thrilled. I was thrilled. When I came out, why did I enter the mall and what did I buy? What I was intended to buy, that was gone. Then I saw what happened is that the shopping mall is full of waves of thought that people who are greedy. I want this. So when we go there, I got carried away with those thoughts. That made me more aware. But I was not serious. I just laughed at myself, saying, "See, this is what happens." So, is that my thoughts? No. This is the reason why the yogis are afraid to come to city. They all stay in the forest because they know it is disastrous, full of negativity in cities. 99% of your thoughts are not your thoughts. That is why we say ignore your thoughts. People say how to control thoughts, how to eradicate. They struggle. First of all, it is not yours. Why are you struggling? The moment you realize those thoughts are not yours, 99% is gone. I laugh at my thoughts. How many people laugh at your thoughts? Even disastrous thoughts, something comes, I laugh at it because I know that is not mine. I read in a book, it says you have to go to a lonely place, maybe a forest or a cave, where no human has ever gone. Very important. And you go and sit there and observe whatever thoughts you get, only those are your thoughts. It means we are in a wave of thoughts, and first of all, those are not our thoughts. And that experience had made my mind zero. And whenever I meet a person, I can clearly see their thoughts. That's why people are scared with me. Very, very scared because these are very secret, right? All the thoughts. But I can easily read the thought, I spell it out. People say, "My God, you're reading my thoughts." No, I'm not reading. I don't have any waves. And you have a wave. When the wave passes, I catch it and I spell it out. People may agree or may not. See, I can catch your thought. If I spell it out, you say, no, it's not mine. Or you may say, yes, it is mine. It is your choice, but I always spell it out. This is why when you go to a yogi or a rishi or a brahmarshi, your questions will be answered without asking how, because they don't have anything. They are just in the emptiness and they can see your waves. Sometimes, if they feel it is worth to answer, they will answer. So, thoughts are nothing but waves, and most of the waves are not our waves. So, ignore it.
Yes. So sometimes we, like when we get certain thoughts, and we definitely get into this we get this question that why am I getting this thought out of nowhere. So now, like, it's very clear why it happens, and we tend to follow that thought and give it energy, and again forming into that circle. So more and more thoughts around it. So thank you so much. So definitely we need to laugh at our thoughts. That's a great tip. Thank you for sharing. So, there are various tools out there that we can use to enhance our meditation practice, like crystals and pyramids. So, how do we know what is the right tool for us?
The first thing we need to develop in spirituality is intuition. Okay. Everybody has that. Everybody has that. What people don't have is the trust on themselves. What fascinates me is like when people, great third eye masters, they share some experience and say, I think it is right. I think maybe it is right. I like, it's your own experience. If you don't believe, who's going to believe it? I firmly believe each and every bit of my experience. Okay. First, you have to trust yourself, not 100%. Whatever is a whole, trust yourself and trust your instincts and go according to your message. There's nothing called right or wrong. There's only two paths. By doing that, your intuition power will increase. Then, whatever object you hold, you will be able to get your intuition whether that is right for you or no. There is nothing called right product in the market or wrong product. Whether it is useful for me. At this point, do I need a pyramid or no? At this point, do I need a crystal or no? It may be useful for one, it may not be useful for other at this point of time. This body is nothing but the collection of trillions of cells. In Telugu, they say Anula Kutam. Okay, and every moment there is a birth and death. So every moment you change. So you're not the same last moment and this moment. So at this moment, do I need pyramid or no? Do I need a crystal or no? It may be a good product, but do I need it? So your intuition will always guide you. You have to start listening to it. Then there is never a question which is good or which is bad.
So, what is the best way to get connected to your intuition?
The first and foremost step is empty your mind. Not only in meditation, 24 bar 7. My mind is so clear, I hardly get thoughts throughout the day. So I always wait, just like a receiver, to get higher messages or inner messages. I always wait for it, all the dimensions. Second, whenever I go anywhere, I just look at the person or the object without any judgments. Again, judgment is something is a preoccupied waves of somebody's or yours. Then you can easily connect with that person. You get some messages and something will be revealed. Or for all that things, you need to be open. You need to be like very, very crystal clear. I'm meeting you for the first time, Swapnaji. I don't know anything about you. This will be the same thing for me with everybody. How many ever times I meet them. If you are able to, do I know you? I don't know. If you can do this with everybody, no matter how many times you meet them, then you will really understand who they are and what they are right now because you have changed. 5 minutes ago and now. So this is the practice I always do, which will help me to see how things are, not how I am.
Because most of the time, our we judge people and we are biased. So and that's so true. So can you explain the significance of pyramids and in what ways can we use the pyramids in our life?
See, pyramids, first of all, nobody in the earth knows from how did it come, because there's so many of theories. In 2009, I went to Egypt along with Patriji, the first batch, 91 people. So our guide was archaeologist. So I was keep on digging her. So I came to know more realities. I asked her, "Did you find any mummy in the pyramid?" No, she said no. When we first discovered there's no mummies in the Great Giza pyramid. But that's a direct proof. I read in the books, in the videos, but I spoke with the archaeologist directly. So that confirmed me a lot. Second thing is, we did not build the pyramid. We are just trying to understand a structure. No, we are not trying to really understand anything else, but we are trying to just understand how to use it. So many scientists in the pyramid, they said we only know the tip of the pyramid. The benefits may be the whole pyramid, but the benefits of what we know about the pyramid may be just a tip. We really don't know why they are built. We are only trying to understand a structure which is existing. So in my research, I'm so fascinated with pyramids. Maybe I developed it over the time, I don't know. But pyramids are the structures which is given as a gift to the earth. This doesn't belong to the earth. Definitely no. So this is a great ascension tool. When the moment we go inside the pyramid, our mind instantly becomes blank. The pyramid will take you to your original nature. So what is our original nature? Empty mind. When we are born, we don't have thoughts. The pyramid helps us to ascend. If you put any fruit or any chemical, whatever it is going to make that as the best form, original form. You put a bottle of poison, it will reduce the intensity of the poison. In DRDO, there is defense research in India. They did a research. They saw the nutrition values increased in tomatoes. That was shocking. We were only thinking about preservation. It not only did it preserve, but it also increased the nutrition value. So the more experiments we do, we are like, oh wow, oh this is also new, because we don't know it about it completely. There is no user guide. You have a phone, you have a user guide. You explore for 1 or 2 hours, you understand all the features. The pyramid features we don't know yet. The more we experiment, the one lady, she said her mobile phone was not working. She kept under pyramid for 2 days, it start working. It may sound crazy, but more than 100 people told me this. If I don't believe, then I'll become crazy. So all that we can do is have an open mind and think like a scientist, to go and experiment before we judge or before we talk. So pyramids are helping the humanity in every way. You keep it in the highways, the accidents are coming down. You keep it in the agriculture fields, the crops are growing more. You keep above a bore well, the water levels are increasing. You keep in a house, the vibrations are increasing. You keep on the water, the crystal structure of the waters is changing. Okay, keep it on the head, the energy levels are increasing. Your brain functions well. When students use, the memory power is increasing. When you have any wound, you keep it, the healing becomes fast. The applications are, we have to write a Bible maybe, whatever we know, but still, whatever we know, it's only tip of the iceberg. So as we say, like whatever the problem, one solution what we say to everyone is do meditation. And whichever you see, if you want to make it 3 times better, put a pyramid. 1 inch and 100 feet both has the same power. Only the capacity is big. So this is was interesting about the pyramids, and I'm still exploring it.
So I know that like pyramids are built with different kinds of materials. So is there any like best material or something like that?
All the materials are almost same, but when we use copper, I saw it is little better because copper as a metal adds some value to the pyramid. All the structures of pyramids has equal energy, and material also contributes something to the pyramid. Okay, I have done the energy testing with a plastic pyramid and a plastic uh, pen, where the energy sucks out in the plastic pen, but the same plastic, when it is converted as a pyramid, it gets energy. But when the copper as a metal and as a pyramid both contributes energy, so it's additional metal. So in my observations, copper has not much, maybe few more percentage of additional energy because it's a spiritual metal. All over the yogis they have kamandalas. Okay, the copper is extensively used because it's a pure metal. Without mixing anything directly from the ground we get. So in my research, I can't say it is research. My findings, I would say copper has a slight advantage, but no matter, every material is same. Whether it's a concrete, limestone, whether it's a wood, whether it's a plastic, whether it's a copper, aluminium, zinc, whatever materials, the angle has to be perfect. And one more myth is if the angle is little deviated, the energies will be less, but it will never be negative because there is a lot of miscommunication happening. People think if the angle is more or less wrong, there's a lot of negative energy. No, never. Don't trust those words. I meditated in the wrong angle pyramid also, nothing happened. Okay. So the energies will be less. Like the radio, for example, we have this FM radio, 93.6 FM. If it is point 0.5, you still listen, but with some disturbances. That's not negative, right? So the tuning has to be done properly. That's all. So this is my experience with pyramids.
That's great information. Thank you. So can you help us understand what is enlightenment and how do we know if we are on the path to enlightenment?
See, coming out of a karmic cycles is enlightenment. Knowingly, unknowingly, I might have killed animals in my past life or this life. I would have ate animals. I would have given suffering to others mentally, physically. So this is birth and rebirth karmic cycles. Punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam. To come out of it, you have to become a yogi and a gnani. The first step is the yogi, empty your mind. Then the more knowledge you get, gnanagni datta karmanam, you need knowledge. I got so much of knowledge only because of my spiritual service, not of my practice. Most of the time, I am very much shocked what answers comes out of me because I am also a listener. Okay, things happens through us. This is what we'll experience when you're in spiritual service. So we have to get out of the karma. It means we can come back to the earth again, but not because of karma, not because of any balance. We can go back to the bank, not because of loan, maybe to withdraw money or for something else, not because of loans, right? So similarly, we don't need to come back to the earth for karma. So we need to get out. Everybody has to get out of the karmic cycles. So the karma can be easily vanished the more you give you are in spiritual service along with the spiritual practice. That is the first step. And once you are out of that, you have to increase your knowledge. Knowledge will get increased by experiences, not by just reading books. Somebody's experience they have written in a book, and that is the information to you. By reading that one, by applying it, you get experience. That becomes your knowledge. My experiences, when I'm sharing, it's only information to you. It is not knowledge. You get information. Everything you find in a book, audio, video, or directly you're listening from someone, everything is only information. By listening to information, few doors opens up. Oh, interesting, let me try. When I said spiritual agriculture, people think, okay, it's a very new term. We never heard about it. So something opened up. The mind opens up. Then their energy starts flowing towards it. The opportunity comes, they go explore, they do something, and then they get their own experience. That is wisdom. Through that, they come out of the karmic cycles. The more the knowledge they gain, the petals in the Sahasrara keeps opening up. That is enlightenment. You add more light to you. Once I physically felt a petal opening up when I experienced something, then I understood, okay, this is really there. I was thinking it was all just a dramatic thing. Maybe it's not there. But when one of my petal opened, then I understood, okay, something is really there. It's not just a story. So enlightenment is answers for all your questions from within. If I have a question, either I'm awake or I'm a dream or I'm meditating, if I can get my own answer, that is enlightenment according to me. If you are seeking outside, still you are in the journey of enlightenment.
Thank you. So, I think Patriji always says that about middle path. So you always need to, practice spirituality and also enjoy your life. So how do we understand the right balance? And how do we know we are managing both things well?
Every musical instrument, especially the string instruments, it teaches us what is middle path. And Buddha tried everything. Kundalini, whatever it you name, that so many so-called meditations in the market. Buddha tried everything. Not now, 2500 years ago. Nothing worked when he was sitting. He saw a boat passing by. Someone said, don't tighten the string too much. It might break. Don't loosen it. You will not get the tune. You need to keep it in somewhere in the middle. Then he understood. Instead of going against the current of life, just relax. Go with whatever existing. That is when he got enlightenment. So this word middle path is not a new word. It is 2500 years ago. Buddha discovered. It was even before that. People who have that string instruments, every time, even after one raga, they have to tune again. So if you tune, only then the instrument gives great music. So this body is an instrument. So we need to always tune to the middle path. No extremes, sorry. No vairagya. Vairagya means, no, I don't want. It's okay. Don't take it to extremes. Never in anything. Be it money, be it in relationships, be it in friendships, be it in any decisions. Extremes are always fascinating and happy for the mind, but not for the soul. Extremes may thrill the mind, but soul doesn't want extremes. Soul wants to stay in the middle path. When I'm eating food, again, I tell people, a lot of people are following fasting. Ask your own body, today, should I eat or no? Don't do fasting because somebody has started a 9 days fasting, 12 days, everybody doing. Why? They don't know. Somebody is doing, I want to do, I want to benefit. I ask myself, in this year, in about around January, I got an intuition, be a vegan. I declared, okay, I'm a vegan. But in the month of September, the bones inside my body said, we need milk products. Then I said again, I'm a vegetarian. So this is how I follow. I don't follow because others are doing, but I listen to them. It is their own experience, their own research. Everything is a research. We all are from different worlds. Why are we here? To research something, learn something, do something. Okay. So this is how I follow. So don't do because others are doing. When others are doing, observe. See if it is required for you. Then you implement. That is middle path. So when I'm eating food, how much should I eat? Should I eat because there's a lot of items, will I like it, or what my body says? Body will give you a signal. Stop. The mind will never give signals. That is the problem. So I don't, because I switch off my mind. It's like a television. That is the first thing you must get it. Then you will switch off. No problem. I listen to my body and then I stop it. Go according to the body needs because you are in the body. The food is not for the mind, for the body, right? Again, earning money, speaking to someone, even answering a question. You ask a question, I answer. I ensure I don't give a very short answer and I don't give 1 hour lengthy lectures. It has to be short and also crisp. This is middle path. Whatever you take inside, whatever goes outside, and whatever you earn, whatever you give, everywhere there should be a balance. And this is a lifetime practice. And you need to sit and analyze. Okay, today I have given 3 sessions. Is it extreme or is it okay? People say, oh, you're giving 3 hours of session. I said 24 hours. In 24 hours, 3 hours is nothing. Man. If I give 16 hours lecture, then it's definitely extreme. If I don't give again, that is another extreme. Whatever I can, if I give it without pulling the strings too much. So you and me are different, right? I can pull it for 3 hours. You may pull it for 5 hours. I cannot compare with you. So you need to understand your own body because this is a without the body you are not going to get even an inch of further experience. And we are here. We may say we are all great souls, but without this body, the vehicle, you will not be able to shed the past life karmas. You will not be able to get enlightened little more. So understand your body, and then you will know what is your middle path.
Beautiful explanation. Actually, the reason why I got connected to this answer is recently I was trying to do a fast. My mind was saying, no, this is not the time. But I was like, oh, everybody's doing it. I'll connect to the group energies. Let me do it. I started and my body just couldn't take it. And constantly my mind was saying, stop it. I was thinking, am I giving up? Am I that weak that I'm giving up mentally? Because people were saying everything is in the mind. But somehow that intuition came from within saying that, you need to listen to your body too, what it is saying. So it needs food. Already you are eating less. So why are you totally depriving it of it? So don't change anything right now. Just go with your normal flow. And the moment I got back, immediately there was so much shift in the energies and the way I felt. So it was not that I was doing a diet. It was I was not depriving my body of food, but definitely there was a lot of change, and that change my body did not accept at that point of time. So thank you so much. And yes, as you said, it is very important that we don't compare with anyone. And everybody has their own journey. As long as you are able to balance and you're able to analyze and focus on what you want and create that happiness for you, that should be the correct balance and the correct way of being in the middle path. Thank you,
The
Ayyappa.
whole creation, the kind of food available in the earth, nowhere it is there. Please enjoy food. You will not get it later. Okay, that's why Patriji always cooks
Yes.
delicious food. We eat a lot of food, but again, we must know the middle path. And fasting, it's just an experiment, but don't take it to extremes if your body is not allowing it. Why you want to suffer? In spirituality, why you want to suffer? We are here to shed the suffering. Again, why should we suffer? I remember one lady calling me and asked, Sir, there's so many sessions, there's so many methods. I'm totally confused which one to follow. I said, simply follow your breath. See what really connects to you. Because there is Seth workshops, there is a inner journey, there is this, that, this. She was attending everything. Then obviously your mind will go crazy. Okay. So I simply answered, follow me. I only say observe the breath, give the knowledge. Or follow your breath. Don't take because everything is available in the market. Like just like the shopping mall example I said.
Exactly.
She did that. Yes,
So I
madam.
experienced this one too, and somehow I felt that intuition came that you need solitude and just sit and meditate on your own for a couple of days. So that calling was there for me, and absolutely whatever you said, like I can relate so well. Thank you. So can
Yeah.
you tell us about your experiences with Patriji?
So first, I would tell who he is. First of all, he's a beautiful human. As a human, you see him. Forget about all the spirituality, meditation. First, you look him at as a human being. Such a beautiful human being. Where every day he prepares lunch for everyone around him, dinner for everybody around him. 100, 200 people, 50 people. He cooks delicious food and serves with a great heart. Second, he gives time to everybody, no matter whether you are a beginner, you are 30 years experienced, no matter. He gives that personal space. Third, he listens to you. Yeah, we have families, we have friends. How many people listen to you? Ha, Swapnaji, tell me. Who is going to ask do that? Did that happen ever in your life? Did he ask you? Yes. He give that personal touch. Okay. Second, look at the number of hours he logs in every day for the truth he believes in. He wakes up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, and until night 10 or 11, people are always behind him. We all want personal space. We know that, right? Have you ever seen any personal space for Patriji? Past 30 years. Only when he's in the restroom, there's no people around him. Only when he's bath. He comes out of that restroom, there are people waiting for him. Where is the personal space? But still, have you seen any dissatisfaction in his space? So as a human, it is beyond what a human can do. And when it comes to the spirituality, he always tells me, you trust in one thing and stick to it until your last breath. No matter what. No matter whatever the ups and downs, whatever comes, stick to it until the end. Otherwise, you will get into yoga brashtatva. Again, you will be born again. So we don't need to do that. Stick to it until the last breath. And I always tell people who doubts him, whether he's a great master or no, there's always doubt. I have hardly seen people who are 100 to 100% trusting him. I have seen 99.9. That point one somewhere, no, this mind always pinches. Somebody will say something about him, some video. These they're always there. I tell them you must first 100% believe. Otherwise, there is no point because that point one is enough to take you back or take you down. Whoever meets Patriji, first thing I tell them is watch his legs, the bottom part of his legs. you will not find even a small dust particle. He walks like you in the mud without slippers, with slippers. But yet you will not find even a particle of dust in his legs. How is it even possible? I am with him for 16 years. For 16 years, I have seen his legs always. I always love his legs. The bottom part. It is always clean and pure. Not that every time he washes it. Is that not enough to understand his greatness? Do we need a third eye to see what he is? The actual fact is, the masters, the astral masters, ensure every step he puts on the floor, they keep their hands. This is the greatness of Patriji. Nobody needs. Do anybody need third eye to see his legs? They just need the physical eyes. In the whole of the earth and the creation, there's always someone above everyone, but there is no one above Patriji. That's all I can say. He created everything, yet he is accessible to everybody. Can I meet a CEO of a company? So much of hierarchy. And look at the management style he has. Break down everything into small units, independent units, freedom. You started meditation 2 years ago. I started 16 years ago. But you are able to come into a channel and give this interview. You are able to conduct this interview. Where else these kind of opportunities is available for even the newcomers? That is the freedom he gives, because freedom is what? The birthright of every soul. We come to the earth because earth is a free will place. Knowing in the books like earth is a free will doesn't help. It has to be in the practical. So he gave that space. So there's no scope for any politics. He said the more there is a division, the more the growth. In same USA, there'll be PSSM global, there'll be PSSM USA, this, that. In India, you can just imagine. But everywhere it grows like a forest. Every plant has its own growth. Otherwise, it has to be like a one tree. Everything will be in one branch. If the tree falls, everything falls. This is not a one tree, this is a forest. The way he works, the models is so amazing. And the kind of energy he has. Okay. Travels. How much he travel? Can I? No way. Beyond. And when you look at him, he's a very good cricket player, very good chess player, very good musician, very good cook, very good speaker, very good organizer, a great manager. There's like no words enough. And only thing I can say is I am very happy, because my journey started the first time when I went for shooking hands. He gave me only one finger, and I understood that I need to do a lot more to get a proper hand from him. That inspired me. See, look at that. Even the smallest things he inspires us. It came to an extent where he started calling me every week. Then now, every day morning, he remembers me, because when he writes the message, he gives to someone, said, send it to Ayappa. That's enough. That is my achievement in my life. So from one finger to every day morning, he remembers me. That's enough. This is what I have achieved in my life. There's much more to explore. Like the tip of the pyramid, we understood. Only one hair of Patriji I understood so far. That's my experience, Swapnaji.
Great. I was very fortunate to spend time with him when he came to Austin. I was fortunate to organize the session here. And as you said, for me, it was like, how can a guru be so simple
Hmm.
and so accessible?
Hmm.
And it was like a family member, having a family member. So, yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you.
A lady from New Zealand named Jyoti, she called after third day of meditation. She said that her 20 years back pain is gone. When I spoke, she was like, "Oh my God, you are so accessible." I said, "Do you want to talk with Patriji?" She was like, she almost fainted. The next day, I ringed up, I gave to Patriji. She was like, "What are you guys?" Third day, I spoke with you. Fourth day, I'm speaking to Guru of you. I said, "Welcome to PSSM."
Yes, absolutely. Ayappa, you and your wife Anita do a lot of service, especially conducting a lot of meditation workshops and all. We would like to hear more about Anita and also your family.
In the year 2005, when I came to Pyramid Valley, that is when I met her first time. I saw in a bookstore, and one of the madams said, "You listen to her experiences." Then I immediately tagged her and we went for a walk. And she shared all her experiences. I shared my experiences. We instantly became friends. We went there, we bought books, we exchanged the numbers. We became very, very good friends. And later, we were talking on the phone a lot. There's only spiritual discussions, spiritual evolutions. And one thing I saw in her is she's more dedicated than me. She's much more senior than me in meditation. And she's more dedicated to Patriji than me. So that is how I got connected to her. I want a person as a life partner because here we say samsara is nirvana. Because I came into PSSM not to get married. I just want to do practice or meditation, get enlightened, this stuff. But the first statement that was lightning strike was nirvana. This comes through samsara. Then I was boomed. Oh my God, should I marry? Then I was very clear. I don't want to marry someone and to make a hell for them and me. I want someone to just support me. Anita was a great partner for me. Even today, for the first thing I told her is, we were good friends before marriage. We let us continue this friendship forever. The best relationship I trust is friendship. Maitreya Buddha, friendship, friendly Buddha. So today I'm a good friend to her, and she's a good friend. And we don't do all these family dramas and games. One pulling others' legs. No, we don't do that. Chota chota things come, but we always settle it down then and there. There's no big quarrel anytime between us. And she is a great enlightened master, much more senior to me and much more dedicated to PSSM and Patriji than me. Is that not enough? Those great qualities. And I'm born and brought up in a city where the ground floor is a lorry shed and there's no plantation trees. There's only few plants in the house. But she is born and brought up in a village. There's so much of exchange that happens between us. The first time when we were traveling together, she said, "Wow, what a beautiful tree." I was just watching, tree is a tree. What is that beauty in it? So I'm that kind of guy. Later, I slowly started connecting with the nature, the tree, those energies. Then I understood her world. Then of course, I introduced my world to her gadgets, malls, city life. She introduced the village life. That is where we got the middle path. Okay. And when we got married again in Pyramid Valley, we met in Pyramid Valley, we got married in Pyramid Valley. Now, occasion of Buddha Purnima. Marriage, see, even before the marriage, we are together. So I thought, okay, what is that marriage? Just announcing people that we are together. So that happened only for 5 minutes. Patriji called both of us on the stage, gave the mic to her, to me. Then he spoke. Then he said, okay, tie the knot. Then he said, get out. Next program, please. What a simple marriage. So that's how we got married. And then we both had one common goal as PSSM at 2012 Dhyana Jagat. So we thought, okay, let's not get into all these babies, other stuffs. Let us just postpone it for 5 years. Let us give all our time. And she was a gold medalist in civil engineering. She was working. I said, stop working because she has a lot of thirst to go and teach meditation. I said, I'm earning. Why both of us need to earn? Everybody said, you're crazy. In Bangalore, both needs to earn. He said, "You keep the principles with you, thank you." So I said, "You resign the job. I'll take care of everything." And she became 24 bar 7, entirely go and teaching everyone.
Great.
So I did not like IT jobs much. I love computers and IT, but not the MNCs. But I have to work because that was the only source of income. So I was working there. People ask, "What is your hobby?" I say, "Going to office." Because going to office is my hobby because my main career and role is spirituality. 16 hours, so 8 9 hours I go to office and come. So that is how my mindset was. And after 2012, we thought, okay, it's time for the baby. Our first baby was born and it passed away in first 2 weeks. So we were in constant touch with that baby. The baby said there were like five of those babies. Everybody wants to leave the earth because their plan is not working out. One of my cousin who is in USA, her name is Sirisha, and her even her baby and my baby was all like they were all from the same world. So they all want to leave. Physically, yet there was a lot of pain because after many years as a first baby, but we understood because when we have that soul communication, it is very easy. Then immediately we tried and then we got the second baby, and I know that it's going to be a boy. The first baby is going to be a girl. I was in constant communication, and because of the first experience, she had little trauma. So I said, I saw visions where in the ninth month you're carrying the baby, you're coming out of this hospital in this way, we are getting into the car. I really saw the visions that gave her strength. And Patriji said, this time everything will be okay. And when he is born, that's when Krishnananda, Guruji Krishnananda walked in inside me. So when Patriji came on the third day to see the baby, and I went and asked him, I want you to name the baby. He said, he was thinking for 15 20 minutes and he said, I'll do it later. Again, next occasion when I asked, it becomes a big drama because there was 100 people around him. He was thinking and walking, and Patri madam was giving some names. He said, no, no, no. After 20 minutes, he said, you're troubling me too much, Ayappa. I said, no, sir. I'm not going to name him until you give name. Then he left, and suddenly there was a huge group of people came to my home to see him. And exactly that point of time, Patriji called and said, the name is Amara. Then I understood he is Krishnananda's Guruji. Krishnananda is a great enlightened master. His guru's name is Amara. So that Guru Parampara has started again here. So
Amazing.
he is my Guru and he is my kid. It's a very crazy combination, So that is how he is born, and the bonding between us in the soul level is so great. That is how Amara is born, and he chose because I am here, and we are in a different level of soul communication. So another great master to the earth came and is born here. And most of the pyramid masters are walk-ins. There are next generation people are directly births. They're not walk-ins. They are like rebirths. So this is my experience with Anita and Amara. A simple, very very simple family, and for middle path, she is the greatest example. She never gets into any extremes. A very simple housewife, and her dedication towards spirituality always encourages me, inspires me.
Great. And thank you so much for sharing your story. You both are definitely a great inspiration for many of us here. And it's wonderful the service that you're doing, being a
Mm.
part of PSSM. Thank you. And great to
Thank you.
hear about your kid too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how do we know if we are making progress in our spiritual path? Like, is there any measure? How will we know that whatever we are doing is correct, our practices and our meditation?
Yeah, we must always compare, compare not with others, with ourselves. How did I perform in my last interview and this interview? That shows how much I have grown in the spirituality. Just before this interview, I went. to make a cup of coffee. Is it tasting better than the before? This is how I measure even the tiniest things. Whatever is inside the spirituality, the output is the body, right? One word is enough to understand how people are. It's not judgment. At least you will know whether they are really spiritually inclined. You talk to someone for 5 minutes, you will understand. So the output is in the body. So I always observe myself as I'm observing others. How am I talking with others? Am I trying to impress someone, or am I just being with the plain simple truth? Am I just laughing for the sake of laugh, or am I being true to myself? How did I perform last time? Is there any improvement? I would say this is one of my best interviews because the pauses I am giving, I am loving it. And again, this is early morning for me. It is much more silent inside and outside. So I'm just loving this. That's why the flow is so great. And when someone asks me a question, I will see what kind of answer came out. After every cricket match, the player sits and watches his entire match to see what went right, what went wrong. I never replay anything because I do the replay when I'm doing it. Like how you are listening when I'm talking, I am also listening to me right now. Then I see where I am improved. Did I give any wrong example? Or how was the channeling? How was the energy? How was the synergy? Everything I observe. Only if you're an observer, you can measure. If you are overwhelmed, if you are like too in a fantasy world, or if you are too egoistic, you will not first of all listen or hear your own self. So I measure through this body. When someone is talking, am I listening properly? When I am speaking, am I speaking the truth? Am I giving the right pauses? Am I being in the middle path again? When I'm cooking food sometimes, am I just cooking because Patriji is cooking? Or am I cooking to add my energies to the food or to know what ingredients really people add? Measuring comes only when you see, and this eyes has to be always here. It should not be here. If this eyes goes here, then it's ego, and this will get closed. Only when this eyes is here, this will open. So when you listen to yourself, your own music inside you, your own tune, the actions, your words, your reactions, unless until you get a situation, you will never be able to measure yourself. I was telling everyone we are not bodies, we are souls. But when my kid passed away, yes, I cried once because of the lot of expectations I had on the kid, only once. Then later on, I was observing myself. So that situation is a test for me. Every situation is a test that will show you whether your words and actions are same or not. Life is so beautiful, it will give you the same experience again and again until you complete the course. That is where you need to measure. Last time I wrote an article, this time I'm writing the article. Is there any improvement? Not only in the grammar, not only in the pauses, but also in the way your wisdom has grown. So the measuring has to happen through the physical body. And that measuring point would be your situations in life.
Thank you. That's a great insight. So, what is the right mindset one needs to have in spiritual path, especially beginners?
Who is a beginner? You have again reinitiated your journey. Spirituality is a journey from the past. It's nothing like if I do a computer course, then there is a beginner, intermediate, experts. But for me, here, everything is a continuation of the journey. You are in the journey. You may go to the greatest heights, but what is most important in spirituality, according to me, is you need to maintain it. You need to be consistent and maintaining it. You may grow to any heights, but falling is also very easy. If you want to maintain whatever enlightenment you have, because I heard once Patriji telling to a lady that, Madam Ji, you are more enlightened before than now. So again, people become less enlightened if they are not staying in the path. People become more enlightened if they are staying in the path. So that's why I tell you, like a tip of the pyramid. I only know the hair of Patriji because there's so much more. Every time we meet, he will keep on giving us the knowledge. So the most important thing is following the principles. As Vivekananda said, when it comes to the principles, stand like a rock. When it comes to the opinions, flow like a river, flow with the current. But we exactly do the opposite. We are very adamant on the opinions, principles chalta hai. No. As long as the principles are like your foundations, nobody can shook you. The principles are, it can be 18 guiding principles, or you can define your own principles, but stick to it. Checkpoints, weekly one, monthly one. Read the principles and see, and your inner knows whether you are following something or not. The principles always will help us to stay.
So once again, Ayappa, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and giving us great insights into pyramid energy, third eye concept, enlightenment, and great tips on how to enhance our meditation practice, especially on how to deal with our thoughts.
It was a great opportunity for me to check where I am again today. And such a great work the PSSM Global is doing. And I wish through this channel, a lot more masters comes and shares their wisdom, and it should really reach the globe.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Doing a fantastic job, and thank you for opportunity you have given to me today. So I became more happier and more enlightened through this interview, and it is also a very personal connect with you, Swapnaji. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for joining us today. We have more speakers coming in our next episodes, so stay tuned. For upcoming events and programs, please visit www.pssmglobal.org. Subscribe to PMC Global on YouTube. Thank you.